Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Butterfly Spirit 314. So today guys, I decided that I wanted to talk about something that I recently learned from the relationship book that I'm reading. I know there's tons of relationship books out there. There's tons of YouTube videos. There's tons of people out there who have opinions about what to do with this stage and that stage of the relationship and things like that. And one of the things I have to say about the relationship book, something I recently learned is, and this is something I was not prepared for, something I learned from the relationship book is that I need to make some changes. And the reason I came to learn that is because there is a section in chapter 2 of the book that I'm reading. And the author was talking about the fact that if you change how you behave in your relationship, then it'll affect your partner, okay? And it wasn't just that part, but it was the part about the fact that the author asked, and she said this, and then I felt it. She was like, she said, all right, so I found the part in the book that I needed to look at because I kind of drew a blank for a second there about why I feel I need to make changes in my relationship. So in chapter 2 of the book I'm reading, the author was talking about the fact that when there's problems in your relationship and you and your partner, you guys kind of go through the same actions, right? And then let's say you tell your partner, well, the only way we're going to solve this is if you make changes. And so your partner goes and they make changes, right? And then you notice from that point that you guys have another argument. And then, you bring up, let's say it's about the same thing you guys argued about last week. And then you express, well, and you say, well, you were supposed to change this. If you change this, then, we wouldn't be having this argument. Okay, so here's what I'm going to say. What I'm going to say here is this. When it comes to arguments in your relationship, and I know this is very difficult for people. Some people are not going to want to do what I'm doing. They're not going to want to be objective and honest with themselves about their relationship. And for those people, that's okay if you guys don't want to do that. What I can say is this. When it comes to arguments and changes, you ask your partner to make changes. That doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem because although your partner is making a change, it doesn't necessarily mean that, that change is going to go into effect instantly. And if you're asking your partner to change, like what I did, I'd ask my partner on several occasions to change so that we wouldn't have a particular problem or situation again. And, in reading this relationship book in chapter 2, I realized that, I asked my partner to make changes. But the issue is that I wasn't making changes. I wasn't changing my behavior, right? And I was kind of going back to that of feeling like I was right, well, I'm right about this. But being right in a relationship, I understand now, being right is a dead end. The same thing as me asking my partner to make changes. Because although my partner is going to make changes or whatever, my partner is human. So my partner can make a mistake. And maybe they tried out doing the change I suggested and then it didn't work. So they just kind of reverted back to what they were doing. And then we kind of go back to an argument and stuff like that. And it seems like the same argument over and over and over again. And here's what I have to say. In order for there to be change, right, I realized that asking my partner to change who they are, change, like I can, like what I'm thinking about in my head is asking my partner to change on my end can be selfish because I'm asking them to accommodate what I want them to do. But then again, a mirror kind of reflects back on me as to, am I willing to make some changes that they suggest, you know? And I think in relationships, that's what happens is like one of the partners in a relationship, they can decide that, they're the ones that, need to get stuff under control and make the decisions or whatever without considering their partner. And I think that's where I think, we fail at is that, we have to realize that when it comes to a difficult situation, such as an argument or a disagreement, because that's going to happen in any kind of relationship, not just a romantic relationship, but any. What I can say is that, I'm realizing where I need to make changes. Now, I'm not going to say I'm this expert and I know all this stuff and I'm doing all this. Of course not. But one of the things I can say is that I'm starting to have a better understanding about the fact, one thing I didn't know, which is that other couples struggle with the very things that me and my partner struggle with. And, I'm glad that there's a resource that I can, read through and start to really think about like my actions in the relationship and really be honest about how I've behaved. And trust me, it's not easy. It ain't easy to have to sit down and sit with, with, how, I behaved in a certain situation. And I know that, there was times, that I really did not want to sit with that because, if my partner recorded the argument we had, there's no in hell I wanted to listen to that because then I'd have to listen to the things I said, how I said it and stuff. And I was not really willing to be honest with myself about how my partner recording it really shined a light and put a mirror in front of me for me to see things. And I know now that, yeah, I wasn't willing to do that. I realized that. And like I said, I'm human like anybody. I'm not perfect. I'm working through things. And I think gradually, as I go through this relationship book, I'm going to learn better, and I realized though, in doing what it is that I did and my actions, I realized that I made mistakes. And I think that, one of the ways to demonstrate that I have learned from my mistakes is to, for me to be able to actually demonstrate that and, admit when I've made a mistake. In fact, I must be learning something from this book because when I was at work, then I made a mistake on something I was working on, and it happened like 4 times where I was like trying to complete a task at work. And, in the relationship book, the lady had mentioned that, it's important to, think about like how you, times where like you've made a mistake or you've done something, how comfortable were you at acknowledging your mistake and things. And she didn't say it exactly like that, but that's what I got from it. And what I have to say is I've learned so far from this book that I learned about how it is that I react when it comes to mistakes. And I learned that I'm not all too comfortable with acknowledging mistakes. I learned that I can get frustrated at myself and mad because I made a mistake, right? And when I acknowledge that, then when I was at work and I made a mistake, I was really, after I acknowledged how I behave when I make mistakes, something I was able to do. Something I was actually able to do when I was at work and I made those mistakes. I told my coworker, I said, I made a mistake like 4 times on trying to complete that task. And you know what? I finally was able to do it. And I was really able to be positive about that and be like, yeah, I made a mistake, but you know what? I can own it and I can acknowledge it. And I think, that's a sign that I'm growing as a person. So, One of the things I want you guys to know is that, you know, it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to, not know what to do when it comes to your relationship. And yeah, relationships can be tough. It definitely can. Whether your relationship has been whatever amount of time, right? Relationships can be tough. I think one of the things about relationships is that when we're in school, right, we don't learn about, how to have a romantic relationship. We learn about like the fairy tales, right? We learn about how like those relationships go in fairy tales, right? But we don't learn about how to see a positive and good relationship, like a positive and good romantic relationship and a healthy relationship at that. We don't really learn about that. I mean, even if we look at people in our lives, we may not even see it demonstrated where we see healthy relationships in our lives at all. I know when I've grown up, like I haven't seen the healthiest of relationships or whatever. And I know that, as a child, like I would only just look around and think, oh, okay, so this is how, relationships are supposed to be. And then I'd assume that's what it was like. And then, as an adult, I would repeat what it is that I thought I saw family do. And that turned out to be a disaster. So, we don't really learn about healthy relationships and how to really have them because we're not really shown that. Now, there are people in families that grow up and they do see healthy relationships. They do. And I think that could probably be rare. However, what I will say is this. What I will say is that when it comes to, being in a romantic relationship, it does take work. Even if you see somebody having a great and wonderful relationship and it looks great on the outside, doesn't mean they don't have relationship problems, because they probably do. They probably have a lot of good stuff. Everything looks great and they seem to be acting nice and whatever. They probably have relationship problems. You just don't see it because you see them in an instant and you see them and it seems like they're good, but they're not. And that's something I've learned from this relationship book, is that there are people who, they're dating or, they're married or whatever, and they have relationships and it looks good on the outside, but really it's, there's issues on the inside that couple may have, but they're just not displaying it to the world or anything like that. And so really, no romantic relationship is really perfect, because even those, couples who seem like they have the great relationship, they're still going and trying to get help with fixing their relationship. The lady whose book I'm reading right now, she actually had workshops with thousands of couples. And in those workshops, she uncovered a lot of the things that, she's seen themes with couples, regardless of how long they've been together, whether they're married or not, and she's seen themes amongst people, such as people in their relationships feeling like they're right, people not being able to communicate with each other, right? She's seen, those relationship problems that a lot of people are not addressing, and she's seen those things. And this is what inspired her to write her book. And so I'm very happy to have the book and to learn. Now, it's not easy going through this book, and it's not easy working on my relationship by myself. But what it is doing is it's allowing me to have more insight and understanding about how to be a better partner than I have been so far. So, I just thought I would kind of, shed a little bit of light on like what I'm learning so far and things like that for you guys. And if you decide to work on your relationship by yourself, if you decide to do that, then, I encourage you, take it at your own pace, take it slow, and do your absolute best, and just be honest with yourself. If you want to know the book that I'm reading, you can, I can share with you guys in the comments. However, I just suggest give it a try. No, it's not going to be easy at first, but, the further you get, and the more like honest and like the more like you try, because that's the key, is to try, right? Because you need to be able to try in order to make progress, right? So the more you make that effort and you try and you learn something new, that's really going to be the thing that's going to help to improve, not only your romantic relationship, but your other relationships with other people that you have in your life. So I want to thank you guys for listening to this video. I hope it's been super helpful, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.